Yes, on that note, we will get going.
That's how you go on TV. There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The roll call, please, Sue.
Mr. Arcuri? Mr. Bova? Mr. Brodsky?
Here.
Mr. Cork?
Yes.
Mr. Coyne?
Here.
Mr. Delia?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Present.
Mr. Kane? Mr. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Rotolo? Ms. Chesney? Here. And Mr. Wallace?
Thank you. We have our July 16, 2018 draft minutes in the folder. Is there a motion to approve?
Aye.
Second? Thank you. Any comments, deletions, corrections?
I have one small comment. if you don't mind. In the description of the executive director's report, it said that we met with the town of Ilion, it's village of Ilion, just to clarify.
Oh, okay.
Minor clarification.
All righty.
With that clarification, Mark?
I continue to authorize.
Betty?
Yeah.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a resolution which I will turn over to Dick right out of the gate.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda items 4 and 5 are actually related, same topic and purpose. The Water Authority's prepared 2 applications to the Environmental Facilities Corp, financing arm of the state for drinking water and wastewater projects under the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. Here's one, for instance. There's a lot of documentation, the application plus engineering reports behind them. It is the same program that we won the $2.2 million for the phase 1 of the raw water mains last year. We're doing it again for phase 2 of the raw water mains, which is about a mile of that main, and that is agenda item number 4. Agenda item number 5 is for what would be the 3rd Toby Road concrete storage tank. And for these projects, the applications are all approved, engineering reports, but what the EFC requires for them to consider it is a board resolution, basically affirming board support that you're aware of the project, you're aware of the cost, that the environmental work has been complete, and it has, and that if sufficient funding was received, grant fundings from various sources, that you would go forward and undertake the project. So basically that's what these resolutions state. They meet EFC's check the box requirements for a board supporting resolution. We did one similarly 2 years ago for the phase 1 of the raw water main project where we were successful. And item number 4, agenda item, is specific to the phase 2, the 1 mile, and that cost to be $10.2 million. We would under this program qualify up to $5 million. So the rest of the balance of the monies could come from the drinking water projects or some of the other grant programs. So.
Any questions for Dick? Yes, Dave? For the first one, resolution number 4. Oh, 4, yeah. I'm looking at 2018 and then I realized we're looking at the date. Is there a second on that? Thank you. Any further discussion regarding that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. And the next one would be resolution regarding agenda item number 5.
That's for the Toby Road tank, 15 million gallon concrete tank. Also part of our long-range plan to support our capacity and support, major industrial expansions.
Any questions for Dick on that one? Yeah.
Up to how much grant money would be available for this?
That's also up to 5 million. Yep. 60% of project costs were 5 million. Since this one's 13 million, we're above the 5 at that point, similar to the other one.
How friendly are they to tank construction?
Well, it's component.
Grants.
For grants, I know they've financed a lot of them. We haven't really applied for any of them.
Anything else, Bruce?
No, I move it.
Bruce moves it. Is there a second? Thank you, Dave. Any further comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Dick. Anything on finance, Jim?
Very quickly, just in your booklets are the financial report for the 7th month of the year. Water sales is about $400,000 up compared to this time last year. A little below budget currently, but looks like things are going to recover. Consumption was up for the last several months. It's now about the same as this time last year. And water cash flows have recovered from our initial outlays back in January, so we should be having a positive cash flow going forward.
Yes,
I have a question. You down, cash is down 576,000. And can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Were you reading?
From
page 2.
On the top of the page, your balance sheet, assets and liabilities. Current assets are 625,000 lower, with cash down
Right.
576.
Right, and that has to do with the prior year. We had some, this goes back to some of the outlays that we had to make this year, having to do with Suez compared to last year, where we did not have Suez contracted until August. So we're just paying payroll, and then compared to what we're paying now for Suez.
So the difference is Suez, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
It'll even out.
What's that?
It'll even out.
Yeah, should, pretty much. I mean, it'll be a little more than prior years, but more or less.
But you expect that to pick up?
Yeah, so better comparison will be next year when we still have Suez. We're comparing apples to apples. Whereas before, or last year, we had payroll compared to Suez. Where we're paying a certain amount each month. Payroll, because remember, we're paying payroll, workers' comp, payroll taxes, and that's throughout, not just payroll costs, but also other operating expenses.
Thank you.
anybody else? Thanks, Jim. Deb, do you have anything for us other than about the longest drag situation?
I have a great analogy for after meetings, but I'll save that. All right, a couple of quick things I wanted to mention. July 27th was the deadline to get in the applications under the Regional Economic Development Council process. It's known as CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application. We did use O'Brien and Gear to help us put together one for the raw water line. We're looking for $50 million was the amount we put down, I think. Right, and that did go in a couple days ahead of time, so it's in place ahead of the deadline. We'll let you know what you think about it.
What's the total cost of the project that what'd you tell them is the total cost?
Well, the total cost of the project is probably a little closer to 60, but we've already spent some money for the pipe bridge, and we've received $2.3 million from the state from the last request for funding for phase 1 of this project. So probably total right now we're into it for. Well, we will have spent $2.5 million probably in the next year. We don't know the exact cost when it's done. The estimate right now is $50 million, but by the time it's done, it could exceed that. We don't really know, but there isn't a strong justification, I don't think, to be asking for more than that. Right now.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't asking if we can ask for more. I was trying to put that in perspective. $50 million, we're asking them for 100% of what our estimated cost is. Did we describe the total amount of money that we might expect to spend if the new industry came in the 125 or whatever?
Well, the other piece of it would be expanding the treatment plant. But we're requesting the matching amount. I don't think we requested $50 million. I misspoke. So the project cost is $50 million. You're allowed to request only up to a certain amount, and we have to pledge matching funds. So the actual application was lower than that. I misspoke. I was asked by somebody else at Empire State Development how much the project is in case they could fund it through a separate project. In that case, I requested $50 million. But that wasn't on the CFA.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is that I think the number that we should be publicly discussing is the ideal, and everything falls into place.
Right.
Which puts 25 million or 50 million in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have a $50 million project and you're looking for 50 million, that's one thing. If you're going to spend $140 million eventually,
it just puts the whole thing in a better view from the reader's point of view. Because I'm sure they're reading projects that are, are $200 million.
Oh, sure.
For 20, and
Sure.
it's just,
What do you think the chances of the project going forward are?
Our line project or the,
funding.
the chip fab side? We're very positive about it right now. I think we're optimistic. Can't tell you a whole lot other than the site is getting very serious consideration by a company that's been looking at it for quite a period of time. They've ruled out several alternatives, and they're going to be making the final selection, hopefully sometime in the very near future, and we think our site is positioned very well. I would say it's at least 50-50, probably better. Yeah. A couple other things I want to mention. Last month I spoke about the fact that the village of Ilion had been in the news. They have some major water problems down there. They have a fairly large price tag to keep their source going and their treatment process separately from improvements they have to make in their distribution system. So Dick and I did go down and meet with them on August 8th, along with their engineer from Barton LaJudas. And we had, I think, a pretty good discussion. It was almost 2.5 hours. At the end of the meeting, it was decided that they would come up and tour our treatment plant, which they did on the 16th. Phil and John Arnott, the Suez plant manager, took them on the tour. Very long tour, from what I understand. I wasn't there, but thorough tour. Very good. My understanding is that they were fairly impressed with it, and they are looking very seriously into the alternative of wanting to connect up to us. I will say that we did make it very clear when we were down there at their municipal building that any alternatives from bulk sale right up to joining the system would not include improvements in the distribution system. I made it pretty clear. I think I was speaking on behalf of the board. Tell me if I'm not, but I just told them that we were not going to take the $19 or $20 million cost to repair their piping system and pass that cost on to our existing customer base. They'd have to do that separately, but the good news is they'd be able to connect to us to get clean water for a much lower price than they would if they wanted to revamp their own treatment plant and a lot of other improvements that would have to go along with that alternative. And then the last piece of that is that if they do connect to us, there'll be opportunities for other municipalities there to share in that and split the cost. So it conceivably drive their costs down even lower than that. But it was a good meeting. The next step is that we're working with their engineer from Barton LaJudas to do some sort of financial analysis to show where their costs go, either going it alone or connecting up to us, and where the savings could occur for their customer base. So as that progresses, we may or may not have something to come back to the board, to review and authorize as a formal proposal.
How far away are they from the sun? How much pipe do they have?
What was the length of that pipeline, do you remember? A couple of miles, but 5-6 miles maybe, was it longer than that?
miles at least, and Barton LaJudas' latest cost estimates in the $15 to $16 million range for it. And that's large enough to supply all the communities Pat mentioned if they were to hook up the Aliens, the Mohawks, German Flats,
And
Frankfurt.
there may be some opportunity to get some state money under the guise of consolidation as a fund.
Yeah, there's a separate $150 million set aside for
To
consolidation.
answer your question differently, Jenny, if you recall, I'm sure you do, but for others, we do go down that way. We're as far east as about the Schuyler Thruway stop on the Thruway. You need to get from there down to roughly the Herkimer exit on the Thruway. They're right across the road from there, so.
Who would
that's
pay that cost?
They would, along with any state money.
Did they say how soon they would get back to us?
I think they want to make a decision pretty quickly. They know that time is running out and they need to do something. The longer they wait, the higher the cost goes.
Is there anticipated use?
What are they going to use, about 300,000 gallons a day?
Well,
no,
Ilion was 1.1 million. Frankfurt would be another 300,000 to 400,000.
Yes.
Not sure about the others. It could be $1 million, $7 million, $2 million if they all hooked up. But Ilion's the larger of the four.
And then, Mohawk, they want to take over.
Yeah, the opportunity would be there.
They're going to shut down what they have.
And shut down their existing treatment plant and supplies.
Correct. So,
Last thing two things I want to mention quickly. At the invitation of Betty Sesney and Eric Kane, I went to the Schuyler Town Board meeting last Wednesday night to essentially clear up some misconceptions that might have occurred from a guest speaker they had at a meeting before that, who declared that there's a water shortage and we need to either rebuild the Great Dam or do something else. So I went down just to set the record straight. Thought it went pretty well until I dropped all of my poster boards on the floor. It got mildly embarrassing for a few minutes. I apologize for that. But I think the information stood for itself, regardless of whether it was on the eaves or on the floor. The last thing I want to mention is that you probably can't see that from here. This is the elevation of Hinckley Reservoir. So with the rain that we've had over the last week, it's come up about 3 feet since this time a week ago, last Monday. And we're now running only about 1.5 feet below the average for this day. We were 5 feet below average 2 weeks ago. So we're catching up, and the rain is certainly helping. And as time goes on, the reservoir would normally be lower anyway as you get later in the summer. So it is starting to even out a little bit. Thankfully, they still have the reduced outflows, which is allowing it to be covered. But we're now up over elevation 1214, and for this time of year, that's pretty good for our interests.
Still same staff down there, same leadership?
For the most part, there's a few new faces involved at canals, but their chief hydrologist, Howard Goebel's still somewhere in that mix in the decision process. But they did voluntarily cut it back in May, as we talked about.
Why are they voluntarily reducing the outflow? Is their plant down for maintenance?
Canals? No.
I suspect that's it.
No, you mean the hydro plant, the
Yeah.
Jarvis facility for the State Power Authority? No.
I mean,
They're running it, but...
Brookfield.
Oh, no, this says, no. As far as I know, Brookfield's running what they can.
I would just point out that there's might be a correlation because they are up for their relicensing and they're starting to get public
Yeah.
comments relative to that.
So they get
And they probably didn't want the public boat launch being closed at 4th of July time.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have got significant amount of grief comments on
Yeah.
that.
So whatever the cause, we're grateful for it. And with that, I'm done unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Pat?
Send them flowers.
Any old business? Any new business?
Just want to mention that budget requests have been
Oh, yeah.
received.
Thank
They
you.
were received this past Friday. Next week, we're going to have meetings with department heads, scrub through it, and then looking to have a budget workshop a couple weeks after that.
So you'll get us on a calendar I mentioned?
I do have a calendar, yes, I can get it out there.
Yes, Bruce.
At the last meeting, I mentioned that we had made a request to our attorney to comment about the audit committee's ability to consider renewal of our audit. Our 3-year contract's over. If the audit committee felt satisfied with the service, could we just automatically vote and renew it? We did get an opinion that indicated that the current bid documents that were given out 3 years ago didn't indicate that a renewal of that type might be made by the committee. And as a result, we are going to rebid the contract for audit services, which will be 3 years for this year, next year, and the year after. And that will come up probably in the next couple of months. So.
Great. Did you cover everything, Jim, you needed to?
Yeah, no, I was just going to mention, I do have, and I should get this budget calendar to everyone, but I think last year, I'm not sure if we had a budget workshop as a result of the next board meeting in September, but we can do it around that time. So it's just something to think about.
Snowden Road status,
I'm sorry?
the status of it, Snowden Road.
Snowden?
The documents are out through the secret process for both town, DEC, Department of Health Review. Should be on the agenda at the next board meeting, depending on what we hear back from everyone. environmental review.
Anything else? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Now we're doing about